What is good, Raider Nation? I hope you guys are all having a great day out there. I know it's a tough day because the Raiders just lost. Someone please confirm you guys can hear me. And I really want to get into this game, man. Uh, very tough game if you're a Raiders fan. Uh, you know, the Raiders, they've really struggled, man. They've really struggled. And we're going to get into all of this. We're going to really break it down. We're going to get into why the Raiders lost this game. As you guys know, the Raiders, let's face it, man, we're a good team that's really struggling on offense right now. We started off this past game struggling, three and out, three and out, three and out. And last week it was the same thing. Three and out, multiple times we're stopped, and we just can't get it together, man. I see a lot of the comments already. People saying fire Gruden, we're frauds, a bunch of other things like that. But I don't think it's 100% over for the Raiders yet, by no means. And we're really going to talk about it, and we're really going to get into it. First and foremost, we got to just start with some basic stats. On the offense side of the ball, it was not good enough. The Raiders on third downs specifically were 5 of 14, and on fourth downs were 1 of 3. That's not going to get it done, man. You got to do better on offense, man. You have to play better, and the Raiders just aren't able to do it at the moment. We're going to talk about the offensive line. We're going to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks. We're going to get into every single aspect of this team. The defense, let's be honest, man, has been doing a great job. So you got to give a huge shout out to every single person on the defense side of the ball. Right now, in my opinion, this is the best defense we've had over the last 10 years. And you have to keep in mind that's going to benefit the Raiders in the long run. I know right now we're not able to get it together on the offense side of the ball, but over time it'll click. It's just a matter of time. I know a lot of people are absolutely upset, and they're hurt, and they're frustrated. As am I. Like I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. I'm very upset with this loss, but the Raiders are still 3-2. The game, the season's not over. We still have a ton of games left. 12 more games left still. We can so easily finish this season with 10 to 11 wins. We just got to get it going on the offense side of the ball. And we're going to talk about some of the issues on the offensive side of the ball. But first, let's talk a little bit about some positives, man. This game wasn't completely lost. First and foremost, Denzel Perryman's out there flying. You got to give a lot of credit to Denzel Perryman. Jonathan Abram made a couple of really solid plays, as did cornerback Casey Hayward. Those three guys all had great games, in my opinion. Even then, like our defense shut them down to 20 points. That too, like I shouldn't say shut them down, but the Bears scored 14 points. And outside of those 14 points, we're shutting them down. 3 and outs. Maybe they pick up 1 first down, but they were punting the ball a lot this game. In fact, they punted a total of 5 times this game. And the Raiders on their side punted 4 times, but we also had 2 fourth down field attempts. 3 total turnovers, right? Considering the 2 fourth down field attempts. Aunt Six Soldier said, our O-line sucks. Until they can come together and work as one, our offense is going to suck. Our offensive line did suck today. And it wasn't as bad as last week, but it was still terrible. But you can't blame this loss here just on the offensive line. In my opinion, you just can't do that. We had a couple of drops. Waller, I think, had 2 drops. Hunter Renfrow had a drop. A couple of other plays. Derek Carr threw some bad footballs. Right, you look at that 4th down play. There was a play in which Darren Waller was running. I know Carr was pressured a little bit, but he was able to break free of that pressure and throw a pass, and it just kind of went right over Waller's head. We ended up punting on that drive as well. The O-line, in my opinion, did play bad, right? But it was not as bad as last week. I think moving Leatherwood to right guard did help, but I mean, how am I going to say that, right? Leatherwood still had 2 holding penalties. He still had a couple of bad blocks. There was a play in which there was a guy that was free. Like, it was a 2nd down play. Josh Jacobs got the handoff, and the defensive lineman was like wide. Like, no one even touched him. And what ended up happening was it was a zone play to the left, and Leatherwood should have stepped down. Him and Andre James had a dual block. The guy went to Andre's right side, which is kind of the inside, and Leatherwood was nowhere to be seen, and that play got blown up, and we lost like 2 or 3 yards on that play. I believe we still got a first down on that play. I think we got bailed out by a penalty, but Those are the types of things that Leatherwood continuously messed up on, and that has to get fixed. And even then, like Brandon Parker had a terrible game as well, in my opinion. Uh, Brandon Parker, man, I don't know what the hell you do with this guy. He wasn't a good football player in the past, and he's still not a good football player. Brandon Parker needs to go, man. I don't know why the Raiders decided to roll with him. Thank you for the super chat on 6. I appreciate it. Matt said, Sanjit, please tell me this offense is still decent. This is hard to watch. This offense is not decent at all. This offense is trash, right? There's no other way to put it. Now, can it be good? Can it be a good offense? Absolutely, right? It's not like that's out of the question. The Raiders can still be a good football team, especially on the offense side of the ball. Right now, we're obviously not playing like it. Right now, the offense is really, really bad, but we still have some good playmakers. I appreciate the super chat. Again, the offense can still put it together, but a lot of that's going to depend on Derek Carr, because this offensive line isn't going to get fixed. There's just not good players on the offense, and Derek Carr is going to have to he's going to have to run around, roll around, do those kind of things more. I know that's unfair to Derek Carr, but that's just what he's going to have to do this year. We talked about this in the offseason. We talked about how if we invest less money in the offensive line, right, get rid of Trent Brown's, $12, $13 million contract, get rid of Gabe Jackson's $10 million contract, Rodney Hudson's $12 million contract, although we take a dead hit for Rodney Hudson right now. We talked about this in the offseason. Once you get rid of those guys, you're going to have some inexperienced guys, and the O-line is not going to be as good, and we're seeing it. For Derek Carr to get a good defense, you're going to lose that offense line, and that's just what ends up happening. You can't have a good O-line. You can't have a good, defense. You can't have a good set of weapons. You have to pick and choose what you're going to do. And right now, the Raiders chose to go the route in which they're going to get cheaper on the offensive line, and it's really hurting us at the moment. Thank you for the super chat. Adrian also left a super chat. He said, I think if we had that dual threat for Mariota, it would play out so well. When is he back? Now, are you saying to replace Derek Carr and keep in Marcus Mariota as our full-term starter, or are you saying let's run some read options and those kind of things for Mariota? When Derek Carr went down, I was very nervous, man. Nathan Peterman came into the game, and I didn't know what the hell was about to happen, because I don't have confidence in Nathan Peterman. I have some confidence in Marcus Mariota, but I don't have confidence in Nathan Peterman. And the second Derek Carr went down, I was hesitant. I know some people, especially this week, especially after this past game, are going to say, let's move on from Derek, or let's bench Derek. Let's hopefully get Marcus back and get Marcus in the game. Marcus has to show that he can stay healthy, right? So even if we did make that switch, is Marcus Mariota actually going to stay healthy? Is he actually going to be the long-term solution, right? Because the second you move on from Derek, he's not going to re-sign here. He's no longer going to be a Raider. So you'd have to look to trade him to another team. I've been very critical of Derek Carr, and I will continue to be critical of Derek Carr, but you can't 100% put the blame on Derek Carr at the moment, right? Like those drops, those bad plays, right? Like, for example, the Bears basically gave us a first down on a play. I think they faced, or it was like a hit to the helmet or something like that, or to the face mask by one of their defensive linemen on our offensive lineman, and Alex Leatherwood ends up holding. So those penalties offset. Those are killer, because you get a first down. So instead of it being, 3rd and 5 or whatever it was, you would have had a first down. Instead, now you go in on 3rd down and you don't get the first down, and now you're punting, right? Those type of things are killer for the offense. I do appreciate the super chat. Mike Downs said, Sanjit, nothing but angry right now and frustration, and that's okay. The Raiders needed to go a week and reflect. Absolutely, man. This was such a frustrating loss. Cole G also said the same thing. My brother said, such a frustrating loss. O-line is trash. It just doesn't look good right now, man. Penalties need to stop. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot. That's exactly what it is, man. It's very frustrating watching this team right now, because even on the drive in which the Raiders went downfield and we weren't able to convert on that 4th down, we ended up giving Josh Jacobs the ball and he got stopped. I think that was in the second quarter. Even on that drive specifically, when you look at that play, the Raiders were driving, we're moving the ball downfield, and then it just seems like, Derek Carr we run a read option with Derek Carr. That didn't work. He took a hit by Roquan Smith. And then we tried running it, I think like 4th and 1, 4th and 2 with Josh Jacobs, and that gets shut down. It almost seems like it's like the play calling's bad at some points, and then when the play calling's good, it's like Alex Leatherwood holds someone or Brandon Parker, false starts. It almost seems like there's so many different things at different points of this game, and the Raiders really have to put it together, man. They really do. I'm going to continue going through the super chats. If I missed the super chat, I apologize. I will go back and look at it, and I'll post it to Twitter, and I'll answer you guys' questions. The comments are kind of going fast right now. No Name said, Gruden needs to stop calling offensive plays, or we need a new head coach. That long drive with constant run plays while we're down by 11 was inexcusable. John Gruden was outcoached against the Chargers. I have to go back and watch the film, but it looks like we were once again outcoached, right? I do like the game plan that we came in here with. We definitely helped out Brandon Parker a lot. That was one of the things I noticed right away early on in the game. The Raiders were lining up tight ends on that side. They're lining up an extra running back on that side. And the Bears were even moving Khalil Mack over Alex Leatherwood. So they're putting Khalil Mack on the inside over Alex Leatherwood, try to get that one-on-one. And ultimately, the Raiders, it just didn't work out, right? Whatever Gruden's game plan was didn't work out. We'll watch the film, we'll break it, and I'll come back with you guys, and I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts and opinions. But right now, you guys tell me, man, does John Gruden need to either give up play calling, or do the Raiders need to go get a new coach? At the moment, I'm not opposed to either, man. Like, John Gruden's really disappointed me. This is the best team that we've had in a long time. And we're really throwing it down the drain because the offense can't get its shit together, right? Let me know what you guys think about that. SanjitRaider, thank you for the $2 super chat. I see a lot of you guys' comments, and you guys are leaving some great comments, so I really appreciate that. Jose left a $10 super chat. You said pissed the F off, but wanted to donate to show. Always appreciate your content, bro. Thank you. I really appreciate that, man. One of the toughest things to do, and I know you guys feel the same way as me, is to make content when the Raiders lose, at the same time go and watch Raiders content when the Raiders lose, right? It goes both ways. It's tough because, the Raiders, we love the Raiders, man. We absolutely love them. But when they come out and they scored 9 points on offense, Derek Carr, although he finished the game with 206 yards, he had 190 yards before that final drive. That drive really didn't count because the game was already over. It was an 11-point game at that point. It's really frustrating, man. It really is, because the Raiders are so much better than what we're showing right now on film. We got to get better. Adrian said, I meant as a read option. Yeah, man, there was packages for Marcus Mariota. So if you guys don't know, John Gruden had packages for Marcus Mariota specifically this game or this season, for him to run read options, for us to do what the Saints do with Taysom Hill, what the Niners were doing with Trey Lance before he took over. Same thing with the Bears and Justin Fields before he took over. Obviously, Marcus Mariota got hurt, and that package went right down the drain. In fact, you see Derek Carr line up in that pistol formation a little bit. We didn't run that last year, and we only run that package now for that reason, right? It's basically for the Raiders to try to get some read options and stuff like that. So Rick Glenn said Gruden has to go. Yeah, man, I don't know how I feel about this, man. It's terrible at the moment, and I can't make excuses. I'm a huge believer in John Gruden, especially the way he designs plays. I think John Gruden has done a really good job at times, but at the same time, I think he's also done a terrible job at times. You look at the last 2 weeks, especially against the Chargers, we were out-coached. 14 points against the Chargers. That too, we really only had one good drive. The other 2 drives in which we drove downfield, one was a touchdown, one was a turnover on downs. We had 50 yards on 2 plays on each of those drives, right? So we had 100 yards on 2 plays in those 2 drives. One came on a penalty, one came on a big Ruggs throw. But against the Chargers, we're out-coached. One of the things with the Bears is we didn't take a lot of deep shots, and I'm going to have to go back and watch the film and figure out why the Raiders didn't take deep shots. Again, we also had some drops, right? Derek Carr made a great play in which Bryan Edwards dropped the ball. He was pressured a little bit. He was able to avoid that pressure, deliver the ball downfield, and it hit Bryan Edwards in the hand, and he drops it. You can't have those, man. You absolutely can't have those. Again, you can't blame John Gruden on that. I appreciate the super chat. Mario said offense looks like they're pressing Waller ? I have no idea, man. Darren Waller had what, 2 drops, right? Is that correct? Darren Waller had 2 drops. Darren Waller has to get it together, man. They say he's a top 3 tight end. He's not playing like it. He's not playing like it at all. And I don't know if that's just because of the offensive struggles. I don't know what's going on, but Waller is not playing like a top 3 tight end. Now, I'm not saying he's not. I know for a fact he is. But he's not playing like it right now. And we need all our guys to step up, man. Honestly, the only guy that's been consistent is Henry Ruggs, right? But Henry Ruggs isn't really that type of guy that's going to get 15 targets. All right, Ruggs was targeted 3 times. He caught all 3 passes and he had 51 yards. Hunter Renfrow had an okay game, but he did have a drop. At the same time, Waller, we need more from Waller, man. Darren Waller had 4 catches for 45 yards on 8 targets. 50%, man, can't have those. Got to catch more of your passes. I see a lot of you guys' comments, so I really appreciate that. Let's get into the next super chat. James left the $4.99 super chat. Said, Sanjit, how does our offense go for leading the NFL to failing to beat to this Bears team? Disappointing and very similar. Sad failure against the Bears. That's a great question, man. Let's fully get into this. How do the Raiders go from being a top tier offense to falling off? I think it's simple, man. I think the film's out there. I think the first 2 to 3 weeks, teams really weren't sure how to attack this Raiders offense. But I think it's clear now, man. You put a 3 technique over the right guard and you put a guy out there over the right tackle, and you make those 2 guys go one-on-one, and whoever it is, they're going to fail, right? Last week, the Chargers did this where they were putting a 3 technique over the right guard. At that time, it was Jermaine Illuminor, and they made Alex Leatherwood go one-on-one with Joey Bosa or whoever their best pass rusher was. And when you do that from the defensive side of the ball, you're basically designing your best players against Alex Leatherwood. And Leatherwood was struggling. Like he allowed multiple pressures. Probably 1 of every 5 passing plays, Alex Leatherwood was allowing a pressure. And because of that, we weren't able to get anything going last week. But you look at the first 3 games, and we weren't as bad. Like Leatherwood was doing okay. Even then against the Steelers, we replaced Leatherwood with, and I shouldn't say replace, Leatherwood got hurt, but there are rumors that it wasn't necessarily an injury. Leatherwood was playing terrible in the first half against the Steelers, and they ended up benching him and going with Brandon Parker. Even against the Steelers, we weren't that good in the first half. We pick it up in the second half, and that's kind of how that's kind of how it's been going for the Raiders, right? Like we struggle in the first half, and then we get better in the second half. Even today, like it wasn't necessarily that we got better in the second half. We scored 3 points, I think, in the first quarter. It was 3-14 going into halftime. But it just seems like when we need our offense to score, we need our offense to get it going, we weren't able to, and it's really been hindering this team, man. We have a good team, right? Like in my opinion, anyways, I think we have a really good team, and we're just not able to put it together. The defense has been playing lights out, right? Like let's face it, the defense has given up 20 points against the Bears. And I know they didn't get a stop when we really needed it to, right? Because let's face it, being down 5, there's a difference between being down 8. When you're down 8, you got to go score a touchdown, and you have to go down and get the 2-point conversion. It's a little bit more difficult, but you got to get it done when it matters. Brian said, Sanjit, the draft picks are suspect. The play calling is terrible. It's embarrassing paying a ticket to watch that football. I totally agree. And you know what's crazy is we're about to start getting to a point where there'll be more fans, opposing fans, than Raider fans. This past game, it was estimated that 35% of the people at the game were Bears fans. Now, I wasn't at the game. Basically, looking at it on TV, it kind of looked like there were a ton of Bears fans. If you're at the game, I'm sure you can probably confirm that for me. How many Bears fans were at the game? The percentage based on ticket sales was 35%. I think going forward, it's going to be close to that, right? Plus minus 10%. And the thing is if the Raiders start sucking, right? Like if we're 3-3, if we lose to the Broncos next week and we're 3-3, this is going to get really bad, man. People aren't going to show up. People are going to sell their tickets. There's just no excuses, man. As far as draft picks, we can just talk about Alex Leatherwood, man. Alex Leatherwood has been a terrible pick so far. I believe he had 2 penalties. And I believe he might have had another offsetting penalty. He had a couple of plays in which I noticed that he didn't make his block, and it wasn't necessarily pass blocking. There was a run play specifically. I think it was like 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 1. And he just didn't make his block. Andre James got swam over. He wasn't there for that inside zone to pick that up. And there's just plays like that. I would say that the O-line was better today, right? And the reason why it was better was because we moved Alex Leatherwood from right tackle to right guard. The right tackle position still struggled. We still weren't that great, but we still struggled, right? Like, let's face it, we still struggled. We still weren't that good. But it was better than last week. I think the thing with this game was the fact that our players were dropping the ball. We weren't in sync. The play calling, in my opinion, wasn't as great. One of the things I noticed early on in the first 2 to 3 drives is Derek Carr was making way more audibles, almost like John Gruden didn't necessarily script the plays, right? Almost like Derek Carr went up there and he saw whatever he wanted to see and he was able to change the play. I noticed that early on. And then as the game kind of progressed, I didn't really see that. So I don't know if there's something there. Obviously, when we get the film, we'll kind of look into that. But Alex Leatherwood, man, he's been a terrible pick so far. I was not the type of guy to give up on Colton Miller. And I'm not saying that I'm giving up on Alex Leatherwood by no means. But if you guys were here 3-4 years ago, you guys know that I was a huge defender of Colton Miller. And I was like one of very few people that was defending Colton Miller, especially from like the content creators, the guys on Twitter. I was one of the guys that was defending Colton Miller. But it's hard to defend Alex Leatherwood, and the reason why is because he just looks terrible, right? It's one thing if you do a great job on 30 snaps and then you lose on 2 or 3, and those snaps end up going for sacks. That's not the case with Alex Leatherwood. He's either holding, and there's holds that just aren't called either, right? Like, it's clear that this play could have potentially been a hold, and the referees just don't call it. But he's just getting beat, and it's like every 4 or 5 plays he's losing or he's getting beat. And it might even be more than that. And I think the Raiders made a huge mistake by taking Alex Leatherwood. I would have rather had Christian Darrisaw. I would have rather had Tevin Jenkins. And those guys haven't even played. Christian Darrisaw just played his first game today. Tevin Jenkins is on the injured reserve. But I still love the fact that I take that back. I would have loved to take one of those other guys, right? And even then, I said we should have taken Christian Barmore. And I was pounding the table for Christian Barmore. And guess what? Christian Barmore right now looks like a star football player for the Patriots. According to a guy that I know with the Patriots that covers the Patriots, a beat writer, he's telling me how the team's raving about Christian Barmore being that next superstar defensive tackle. And if that happens and the Raiders skipped out on him, it's just that much more terrible, man. Either way, and there's a lot of other players as well that are good out of this draft. You can even look at Samuel Cosby, another offensive tackle that I like. And the Raiders go with Alex Leatherwood, the guy that I had him ranked as my 6th offensive tackle. I like the other 5 guys that are the 3 plus the 2 guys, Slater and Penei Sewell. I like those 5 guys more than I like Alex Leatherwood. And this is why, man. I believe Alex Leatherwood had some issues, some penalty issues, and those penalty issues are coming true, right? Like right now, how many penalties has he already had? How many times has he allowed a sack, right? I believe he gave up 4 sacks coming into this week. I don't think he gave up a sack necessarily. There was a play in which Khalil Mack, they ran a twist or a stunt, and Alex Leatherwood wasn't able to see it, process it, and pick it up. Now, I don't know if I 100% blame him because of the fact that Mac did smack him from the side. I guess he didn't see it. It is still technically his fault, I guess. But he looks bad at the moment, man. Eddie said, our run defense is now non-existent, and Carr doesn't want to extend plays or scramble out the pocket. It really limits us. One of the reasons why I really criticized Derek Carr was I say he isn't making those plays with his legs. But the thing I notice is every time he does make plays with his legs, it's like potentially a big play, right? You looked at Bryan Edwards' drop. It was Derek Carr that scrambled out of the play, right? Like he avoided a sack and he delivered the pass downfield. And it hit a wide open Ryan Edwards, but he extended that play. You look at the touchdown pass last week to Hunter Renfrow. Derek Carr extended the play. You look at that pass to Willie Snead last week. Derek Carr extended the play. It seems like Derek needs to do that more. And I'm not saying to run on every single play. By no means do I want Derek Carr to run on every play, but I want to see him make some more plays with his legs. Again, I think the difference between the Raiders in weeks 1, 2, and 3 on the offense side of the ball was that Carr was making more plays. And I don't know if that's necessarily saying that it was, he was extending plays or what it was. The O-line was probably playing a little bit better, but I think teams weren't really attacking the offensive line the same way in which they're attacking them now, right? It's different today the way they're attacking them. They know Alex Leatherwood's a huge liability. Weeks 1 and 2, they weren't really attacking Leatherwood. Week 3, we kind of got lucky that TJ Watt came out of the game, and then we replaced Leatherwood. I shouldn't say replaced. He was knocked out of the game. But our offense is just bad right now, man. But I do want to talk a little bit about the defense, specifically Amik Robertson, man. I know Robertson wasn't necessarily great, but he did make some good plays, and he did do some good things. He was tested way more today than he ever had been in the past. Obviously, he's not Trayvon Mullen. He hasn't had he hasn't had the same amount of reps that Trayvon Mullen has had. But I do think the Raiders have something with Amik Robertson. I don't think it's going to be a shutdown corner or anything like that. But I think Amik's a pretty solid player, and he's clearly better than Damon Arnett at this point. And if Amik Robertson is our third outside corner and Damon Arnett is our fourth outside corner, I think that's a pretty good set of 4 corners with Casey Hayward, of course. So again, I think Amik can definitely continue to improve. I don't know if the Trayvon Mullen injury has been confirmed, but I've heard it's going to be like 6 to 8 weeks. I know he's on the injured reserve, which means he'll miss 3 weeks or 2 more games, I should say, after today's game. But it does look like Trayvon Mullen's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, and I do think the Raiders have to consider getting another corner, man. We could have gotten Stephon Gilmore for a 6th-round pick, and we didn't. And our defense isn't terrible, but we haven't played a top-tier offense. Like, the best offense we played was the Chargers offense. I know we only gave up 28 points, but, we're still going to play a ton of good offenses, and I don't know how many stops our defense is going to get. It seems like our pass rush has kind of slowed down a little bit. It seems like we can't stop the run at all. I don't know, man. I don't know what we do on the defense side of the ball. I know, as the last super chat mentioned, the run game has been non-existent. The run defense has been non-existent. I guess you can say even on the offense side of the ball, right? Our run O has been non-existent as well. But we gave up today 143 yards on the ground. I should take that back. 139 yards on the ground, 34 carries, right? Not including Justin Fields. That doesn't really count. Khalil Herbert averaged 4.2 yards per attempt. Damian Williams averaged 4 yards per attempt. They ran between those two guys 34 times. That's insane, man. And the thing is once you get up, right, as the Bears got up on the Raiders early, you can continue to run the ball, and our defense was not able to stop it. One of the things I expected from the Raiders defense was to be able to stop the run, and it doesn't seem like we're able to do that. A couple of times I saw Yannick Ngakoue get pushed back on those run plays. I even tweeted it out. I said maybe we should run Cleveland Farrell just a little bit more to see if potentially we can get some stops. But yeah, it's unfortunate, right? It is unfortunate. The Raiders have to be able to figure it out, man. Josh Jacobs had 15 carries for 48 yards. He averaged 3.2 yards per attempt. Drake had 2 carries for 11 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt. Derek Carr, 206 total yards. It's just not good enough, man. You got to do a better job. You absolutely have to get better if you're going to win, man. The Raiders can't continue to go like this going forward. Justin Fields, in my opinion, he's not that good of a quarterback, right? Like, let's be honest. If you watch Justin Fields, so many times that Bears offense stalled, and really they had 2 nice drives, right? But multiple times their defense or their offense stalled. I want to give a shout out to Mark Quarterman. He became a member to my YouTube channel. you guys are not members, make sure to join. It's a great way to support the channel. Huge shout out to you, Mark. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. But yeah, man, it's crazy because Justin Fields isn't that good of a quarterback, and we lost to him. In fact, when Andy Dalton came in, I was more afraid of Andy Dalton coming in because Dalton can actually throw the pass. He can actually throw the ball. But yeah, man, Gus Bradley's done a pretty good job, though, right? Relative to what we've had in the past. But the Raiders' offense has to get it going. I don't know exactly what we do to fix things on the offense side of the ball. Alex Leatherwood, I would keep him in at right guard. I would think about potentially switching out Brandon Parker. If Alex Leatherwood has two holding penalties, or whatever it is, at least he didn't have a sack in this game, right? That's still an improvement. For Alex Leatherwood not to allow a sack from relative to the first 3 to 4 games, that's improvement, right? I know we still lost, but I would consider switching out Brandon Parker. I think Brandon Parker's the one guy that doesn't make a ton of sense to keep in there. He allowed, I believe, 2 sacks in this game. He had 2 penalties, I believe, as well. He had a hold on that Josh Jacobs touchdown, or that could have been Alex Leatherwood. But he had a couple of bad plays as well, right? And the Raiders should consider potentially making that switch to Jermaine Illuminor. Illuminor played right tackle for the Patriots for 2 seasons. He was a right tackle for the Ravens for 2 seasons. I think he's a pretty good player, man. I think the Raiders should, they got to fix that offensive line. I don't know if you bring in a tackle or if you go with Illuminor or if you stick with Parker, but I do know that Alex Leatherwood at right guard makes sense probably for the rest of the season. Again, I know some people are talking about Derek Carr, stating it's Derek Carr's fault. I'm very critical of DC. And again, you can't put the blame on DC. At the end of the day, especially not before you watch the film, right? There's so much more that goes into the game of football. It's not all about just snapping the ball and making the read and throwing the ball, right? There's so much more that goes into the game of football. You got to look at the play call by the coach. You got to look at the set that the defense is in. You got to see, are they single high or are they 2 safeties? Because that's going to determine if you can potentially take a shot deep. If they're in a man-to-man situation, that's different than if they're in a zone situation, right? At the same time, are they blitzing? Are they not blitzing? What personnel are you in on the offense side of the ball? And how is that helping your quarterback or being a disadvantage to your quarterback, right? There's so much more that really goes into the game of football. Ultimately, the Raiders had 3 turnovers, right? They had a interception. They had 2 turnover on downs. And that was the difference in this game, man. And of course, you can say, third downs as well as fourth downs, 5 of 14 on third downs, 1 of 3 on fourth downs. So in total, we were 6 of 17. You're not going to be able to get it done that way. From a yards perspective, we had more yards than did the Bears. We had 259 yards. The Bears had 252 yards. So there's really no excuses, right? There's absolutely no excuses. I know a lot of people are saying, let's get rid of Derek Carr. Some people are saying let's get rid of John Gruden. As you guys know, that's likely not going to happen, right? Especially at this point. John Gruden is likely not going to be gone. DC is likely not likely to be gone, especially if we don't have a plan, right? If you were to get rid of DC, who takes over as your coach? Is it Gus Bradley? At the same time, Gus Bradley hasn't had the success as a head coach. At the same time, you make Gus Bradley a head coach, your defense is going to start slipping a little bit because being a head coach is different than being a defensive coordinator. At the same time, if you get rid of John Gruden, who takes over as your offensive coach? Greg Olsen? Like, do we trust Greg Olsen to make those calls? But yeah, man, it'll be interesting. I know we only scored 9 points, but overall, this team, in my opinion, I know it doesn't look like it from a points perspective, but I think we played a much better defense today. I think the Bears defense is better than the Chargers defense, right? The Browns just scored 42 points on the Chargers, and we put up 14, right? I think the issues last week really revealed where this offense is at. Our offensive line really struggled last week, and it was very clear that the offensive line was not it, right? And we made those changes, and we came in this week, and we looked better on the offensive line. I know we still had some issues. We still had some mistakes, some holding penalties and stuff like that. But we still looked a little bit better on the offensive line. I I think Derek Carr has to step up a little bit. The playmakers have to step up a little bit. John Gruden has to step up a little bit. On to next week. At the end of the day, we're still 3-2. We're not out of the playoff hunt, right? We're not out of the Super Bowl contention. It's all right there for us. Again, Colton Miller did a decent job today. Andre James did a decent job today. At times, Alex Leatherwood at right guard did okay, right? Our run game was much better. John Simpson was okay. I know we definitely had some struggles. DC did some good things. I know, you can still go back and look at some of his plays. But we still did some good things. It just didn't click for the Raiders the way it should have been. We had some drives in which we went downfield and we just ended up stalling. 2 fourth down plays in which we did not convert. You can't have those. We had some penalty yardage. We gave the Bears a free 7 points with all those automatic first downs. We should have stopped them at the 20 on their side of the field at the 20-yard line. And Yannick Ngakoue gives them a free first down, right? So there were just certain issues in this game. The Raiders just got to put it together, man. John said, is it time to make a move for a veteran tackle that we can start right away? I think we have that veteran tackle on the roster, man. Jermaine Illuminor is not a rookie. He's not a first, second, or third-year guy. I believe he's been in the league for 6-7 years at this point. I think the Raiders need to just make that switch and trust him. I know, from what I know with this team, from what I've heard from some of these players in the last couple of weeks, is that the Raiders prefer run blocking offensive linemen over pass blocking offensive linemen. That is a fact, right? The Raiders coaching staff prefers run blockers, and that's why Brandon Parker's in the game, and that's why Jermaine Illuminor isn't. Jermaine Illuminor is much better than both Alex Leatherwood and Brandon Parker, either at right guard or right tackle. But the reason the Raiders don't roll with him is because of the fact that he's not a good run blocker, and he definitely struggles, especially in the zone run blocking situations. He's fine in power, but in zone, he struggles. And with that being said, they're not going to play a guy that's not a good run blocker. Brandon Parker's terrible pass blocking, right? 2 penalties this game, specifically multiple pressures. I believe he gave up 1 or 2 sacks as well. That's Brandon Parker for you. And the Raiders decide to roll with him still because of his run blocking abilities. Either way, I wouldn't be mad if the Raiders went out and got a veteran tackle. But at this point, I just don't see it happening. Myron Coleman said, don't blame the offensive line. We need a mobile quarterback. And I definitely understand what you're saying with that, right? Because you make a good point with that. Papaya Man said penalties and third down stops on D killed us. Absolutely, man. I mean, I wouldn't say our third down defense was that bad. I think we had multiple stops. In my opinion, the defense played fantastic. I know there were a couple of drives. In fact, probably just their 3 or 4 drives in which they scored on us, in which, those are the drives in which they just continue to run the ball. But we had so many plays in which it was 4th and 1 and they punted the ball. I think 3 in this game, 4th and 1, and they punted the ball. At the end of the day, the offense has to get it going, man. They absolutely have to get it going. We can absolutely use Richie Incognito right now. But is he going to play? Is he going to be back? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you guys that tuned in today. There's almost 600 of you guys. If you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really appreciate it. Keep your heads up. The Raiders will be fine going into next week. It's a brand new game next week. We'll see. We'll make some adjustments this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.